Look at this image. This isn't a random prisoner. This is, or was, the president of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro. Sitting on a US warship, blindfolded, wearing a grey tracksuit, holding a plastic water bottle. On the morning of January 3rd, 2026, the world woke up to a different reality. In a lightning-fast operation codenamed Absolute Resolve, US Delta Force operators didn't just invade a country, they decapitated a regime. They breached a fortress, grabbed a head of state, and vanished into the Caribbean night. Brazil's President Lula called it crossing an unacceptable line. Trump called it justice.
We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition.
But the real story isn't just about the capture, it's about what happens next. Who runs Venezuela now? Why are US oil companies suddenly packing their bags? And why did the President of the United States just warn Mexico that they might be next? Today we are doing a deep dive into the 150 minutes that changed history, the secret narco files that justified it, and the chaos left behind. To understand how this happened, you have to look at the timeline. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. General Dan Kane, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, revealed that US intelligence had been watching Maduro for months. They knew his pattern of life, where he slept, what he ate, and where he hid. On Friday night, January 2nd, a break in the winter weather gave them the window they needed. At 10:46 p.m. the order was given. By 2 a.m. local time, Caracas was under siege. But this wasn't a full invasion. It was a surgical strike. Over 150 US aircraft swarmed the airspace. They hit specific targets. The La Carlota, Charlota Air Base, signal antennas at El Volcan to cut off communications, and the port of La Guaira to secure the exit. Residents in Caracas reported seeing low-flying black helicopters and hearing massive explosions. The city's power was cut to create confusion, the fog of war. The main target was Fuerte Tiuna, the military fortress where Maduro lived. US special operators breached the compound. According to reports, Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, tried to run to a hardened safe room. They almost made it, but US forces intercepted them before they could seal the steel door. By 3:29 a.m., just 2.5 hours after it started, it was over. Maduro was airborne, en route to the USS Iwo Jima, floating in the Caribbean. But why now? And on what legal grounds? The US justification rests on one word: narco-terrorism. The Department of Justice unsealed a superseding indictment that reads like a movie script. They allege that for over 2 decades, Maduro wasn't just a president, he was the leader of the Cartel of the Suns. And he wasn't alone. His wife, Celia Flores, is charged with accepting bribes to broker meetings between drug traffickers and government officials. The indictment claims they worked with the FARC and the Tren de Aragua gang to flood the US with thousands of tons of cocaine, using the drug trade as a weapon against America. This classification is crucial. By labelling them narco-terrorists, the US argued this wasn't a war against a nation. It was a law enforcement operation against a criminal enterprise. This is where things get complicated. With Maduro gone, who is in charge of Venezuela? In a press conference, President Trump dropped a bombshell. He said, "We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe transition."
And that would run Venezuela.
Well, it's largely going to be, for a period of time, the people that are standing right behind me. We're going to be running it. We're going to be bringing it back. It's a dead, I talk about a dead country.
And he was very clear about the priorities. Trump stated that major US oil companies, the biggest in the world, would enter Venezuela immediately to rebuild the infrastructure and get the oil flowing. But inside Venezuela, it's total chaos. On one side, you have Delcy Rodriguez, Maduro's vice president. Trump claimed she was cooperating and willing to do what the US wants. But on Venezuelan TV, she appeared defiant, calling Maduro the only president and demanding proof of life. Despite this, the regime-controlled Supreme Court ordered her to take the presidency. On the other side, you have the Democratic opposition. Maria Corina Machado the Nobel Peace Prize winner, declared, "The time for freedom has come." She is calling for the winner of the 2024 election, Edmundo González, to be recognized as president. But here is the twist. Trump dismissed Machado, saying she doesn't have the support.
Or how do you foresee the relationship
Well, I
going?
understand she was just sworn in, but she was, as you know, picked by Maduro. So Marco's working on that directly. Just had a conversation with her, and she's essentially willing to do what we think is necessary to make Venezuela great again. Very simple.
This has created a bizarre scenario where the US might ignore the pro-democracy leaders in favour of running the country themselves or installing a transition government of their choosing. While the politicians argue, the ground reality is shifting. Elon Musk announced that Starlink is activating free internet for all of Venezuela, bypassing the regime's censorship grid. But the neighbours are nervous. Brazil's Lula condemned the raid. Colombia's Gustavo Petro mobilised troops to the border, terrified of a new wave of refugees. And perhaps most shockingly, the US president used this moment to send a warning to Mexico. He stated that Mexico is run by cartels and warned that something is going to have to be done, implying that Venezuela might just be the beginning of a new era of direct US intervention. So, where do we stand? Nicolás Maduro is sitting in a cell in Brooklyn, New York. Venezuela is in a power vacuum between a US protectorate and a collapsed state, and the unacceptable line of national sovereignty. It seems to have been erased in a single night. The US has proven it can take out a foreign leader in 150 minutes. The question now is, can they actually rebuild a broken nation? Or have they just opened the door to chaos? Let me know in the comments, was this a necessary act of justice or a dangerous violation of international law? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.